Hi everyone, my name is Zach Pratt, and this is my confession cam for Module 1. I've been teaching at Manheim Central High School for 5 years now. I am a technology and engineering teacher there, and the courses that I teach vary a little bit. Most of them are materials related, so I teach two levels of materials production technology. Kind of like a traditional shop course. However, we do a lot more automated machining in those courses. And then I also teach a manufacturing and CNC technology course, which is almost 100% automated machining. And then I also teach a transportation systems course where the students get to kind of walk through with me and learn how the different models or different types of transportation systems and model that within groups. And then in addition to those brick and mortar courses that I teach at Mannheim, I also teach, or I should say facilitate, a manufacturing, more of a theory of manufacturing course, as well as the design of products. So it's consolidated into a marking period course, and they spend half the marking period looking at kind of the skill sets that's needed for manufacturing, and then the other half is more of a product design. So there's quite a broad range of things that I teach at the high school level, and that's for grades 9 through 12. The district, is 1-to-1, so that's really helpful for things that I would like to implement in the course but don't have the time. We can kind of put that on the students as an outside of class assignment, as long as it utilizes the computers. So I am not a online. I'm not part of the online program. However, I've had the opportunity to take a few courses now. This is my second elective in the online program, and but my graduate program at Millersville is a technology and innovation program with the STEM endorsement, and so I was looking at electives to take, and this is actually my final elective in order to graduate from the program, and so through my technology and innovation program, I've kind of learned a lot about how to foster creativity and design thinking in my students, and what that might look like, and how that can, and what kind of tools are available or I can use in order to develop that idea of thinking and help foster that a little bit better. So not only in the brick and mortar classes, but now I'm looking at how do I implement that in the online, and so I thought this was a great fit to be able to take this course as well. And so with the online portion, I really like the idea of collaborating with peers. And so when I look at real world applications, I see students needing to be able to communicate effectively, around the globe. There are technology and engineering corporations that are not just based out of the U.S. but in other countries, and so communication is a huge part of that. And so I think the online classes are definitely great for students to be able to have access to and learn how to communicate. And then also, brainstorming and problem solving. Those really do come into play in not just a brick and mortar setting or a face-to-face, communication, but also in that online setting as well. So I think that the mix of online courses that I've taken and then also brick and mortar classes have kind of helped me develop a new idea of teaching, a new philosophy, if you'd like to call it that. And so philosophy of online teaching kind of breaks down to about 4 different categories, 4 different ideas for me. The biggest one is communication, and so when I think about my experiences as a student in an online course, and then also my experience as a facilitator of an online course, communication is definitely one of the biggest things. Whether that's being able to get a hold of a professor, or getting a hold of a teacher, or even as a teacher getting a hold of a student, making sure those lines of communication are open. And with that comes, the idea of expectations, deadlines, due dates, things of that nature. I found that, especially this year, and a growth in how many students are taking the online course that I offer. And so I need to be able to communicate with each of those students about what my expectations are with the online course. It wasn't necessarily an issue last year as the course was somewhat newer, but now that the word's getting out that there's an online course about manufacturing and product design, more students have started to kind of think about taking it as it's a little bit flexible for them. And so as we've kind of learned about in previous online courses, or at least some of you maybe have, there's definitely that need for students to have their voice heard. And so for my classes, I really want to make sure that students have freedom and choice of what their projects or what their how they're going to demonstrate their learning through the different units that we cover. So I want to make sure that students definitely have the choice or the freedom to choose what they'd like to do. Some students may choose paper, some students maybe choose a PowerPoint or presentation of some sort, or maybe there's a different type of project. So really having that flexibility there is key. And then the last thing that I've kind of took on as a big part of all my classes, not just online, is the idea that students need to show ownership and responsibility. At the end of the day, I want the students to be able to understand why. Why would we learn something about this? Why would we learn this? Why would we take this into consideration when we're developing an idea or a product? And so I think that's really important for my students, at least, to understand why. Why do this over something else? And so I think that's really key for my philosophy of online teaching and teaching in general. So the last question that we were asked to answer was, has the online endorsement classes informed your face-to-face instruction, and how? And first off, I'd say absolutely yes. At first, when I started thinking about online teaching, I was kind of skeptical to the idea. How do you teach a manufacturing class online? But as I started to look at the course and how I was going to facilitate it, I realized that it's not necessarily the hands-on portion per se, but it's the idea of being able to communicate effectively and for students to still foster the idea of creativity in the course. And so when I took that course, or took on the role of facilitating that course, and then having the opportunity to take a few online courses through Millersville, I realized that not only is the online course have some key aspects to it for the students to learn, but I think I could apply some of that to my brick and mortar classes. And so last year, at the end of the school year, I kind of took on over the summer a project of my own, thinking, how can I implement a project or a lesson, maybe just a lesson, in how to draw in AutoCAD and put that into the students' hands through through an online course, or just through our Schoology database that we use. So I went ahead and figured out a way of doing that using videos and note sheets, and so I made a project that I do completely online, and had the students develop their drawings, their designs, with little to no assistance from me. So I'm making it a little bit more one-on-one and being able to help students out as needed. And it proved to be a success. And what's made this beneficial is the fact that I can show other colleagues of mine that maybe are in the middle of writing an online course, or changing up the way they teach their course, and giving them ideas of how they could implement some of these online tools into their brick and mortar classes. So it's really neat to be able to see excuse me, the review process. So when I look back at my tools that I've used mainly for reviewing something, instead of making it a review tool, maybe make it an instructional tool, and seeing that change there, that switch happening in my classes, is pretty neat. So I'm interested to hear from all of you about how maybe your philosophy of online teaching has changed, or how online teaching or the courses that we've taken have kind of shifted the way you teach maybe some of your classes. So I look forward to meeting some of you for the first time, and working along with you for throughout this course. Thanks.